Building an indie business in the center of venture capital. I am Alex Edmonds. People know me as one of the SupremeRumHams on the internet, and this is the Building an Indie Business podcast. Okay, so today I'm going to walk you through the podcast website. So I'm going to talk about the goals for the podcast website, and then I'm going to take you through every page I have. It's not that many. I have the home page, the archive page, every episode page, the page for the book, the transcript page, the subscription page, the about page, and the secret second book page. Okay, so let's get started. The home page. So the home page, the goals. The goals of the podcast website is to get podcast subscribers and to get email subscribers. So every page is optimized for one of the two. Okay, so the home page. The home page starts out with the title, the Building an Indie Business Podcast, because I want people to know what this website is for. Then I start out with the podcast cover. I might just remove that because that has really no value other than like people seeing the cover. Okay. The next thing is links to the podcast. I do the most popular players, Google, Apple, and the RSS feed. And this is one way I optimize for podcast subscribers. So by having the most popular players, someone is most likely to be using one of those players, and when they click on one of those icons, they can subscribe right from there. Okay. Next, I have descriptions of the topics that can be heard on the podcast. I have the description. No, I have what is it called? Like the word I would use to describe that topic. So podcasting. Then I have a sample of an episode that they will hear that's related to that topic. I have how to interview a podcast guest for the podcasting subject. And then I have like a little description of podcasting and the episodes. Then I have one for community building, and then I have one for web development. So those are the three topics you will hear on the podcast. Okay. Then I have 2 pop-ups for email subscribers. And the first pop-up I have, or not the first one, I guess. So as soon as you scroll to the very bottom of the home page, what happens? A end of the page pop-up will come up and ask you to subscribe to the email list. And this is a custom pop-up that I wrote myself. And then so when you're exiting the home page, another pop-up shows up, and it's an exit pop-up. It's in a different color, so the bottom pop-up is blue and the exit pop-up is red. Another custom one that I did. So yeah. And then there's the nav bar, which will take you to the subscription page, the book page, and the archive page. So now let's talk about the archive page. The archive page is a list of every recorded episode. So you will find episodes that haven't even been released yet that I've put on the website. So you'll see episodes that will be released in 2 weeks maybe. So yeah, you'll see information about that one. And then there's the exit pop-up, and there's the end of the page pop-up. So yeah. And the nav bar is a little different. There's the subscription, there's the book page. Instead of the archive, because you're already on that page, it's the home page. So yeah, that's what I have for that one. Then there's the episodes page. So every episode has its own page. I have like 100 files for hosted on Firebase because I have all these episodes. So the way that page starts out is the title of the episode. So like for how to interview a podcast guest, that is the title of the page. I have the podcast cover, which I might delete because that's a waste of the space on the page. Yeah. And then I have the podcast links. They're not to the episode, they're just like the same ones I had on the homepage. They link directly to the podcast on the most popular players. Then I have an embedded player of the episode. Yes, and it's the embedded player is from Podcorn. No, not Podcorn. Never mind. I'll put a link to the embedded player in the show notes. But the embedded player is made by Josh Alderton of the Getting to Ramen podcast, who is a member of the open podcast community. That's why it's important for me to mention that. Then after the embedded player, I have the description of the podcast episode that I would have in the show notes of the podcast. And then I have show notes, which are a little different from the show notes that you would see in a podcast player. So these show notes include a link to the book, a link to the forum, a link to the email list. I might delete that one though because I have the 2 pop-ups on the page as well. Then I have the episode blog post if I wrote a blog post about that episode. Yes, and then I have a link to the transcript, which I have just started providing. Okay. So then on the nav bar for the episode page, I have the home page, the book page, and the archive page in the show notes, in the nav bar. Then I have the exit pop-up and the end of the page pop-up. Okay. Now I have the book page, which is a lot of information. So the book page is just an embed of the Gumroad page to get people to look at the book. Okay. And this is the fastest page on the website. I've been tweaking around with that to make it the fastest. What I did so far is I deleted all the excess CSS because what I do for every episode page is I just take the previous episode and I copy that page and just rearrange everything to fit the new episode. And so I took out all the CSS from the episode page and I tightened it up as well. There's no line that doesn't need to be there. So the average page I have for the episodes has over 700 lines of CSS. The book page has less than 300. There are no pop-ups on the book page. The only CSS is the embed of the Gumroad page and the hosting on Firebase. Those are 2 things I need. The page itself has 400 lines of code, and then the episode page is 900 lines, so it's a lot less. And then, so the goal of this page is to get this page to show up in search results for the word podcasting book. And I have another embed on the Open Podcast blog, but I think this page is more likely to show up in the search results because I control the entire experience of this page, unlike the podcast blog, the Open Podcast blog, because the Ghost blog has a bunch of JavaScript that I haven't gotten rid of yet because I have to go into the theme on Ghost and rip out everything and understand where that stuff comes from and how I won't break the blog if I strip something out, where with my podcast website, it's custom. I built everything myself and I know what needs to be there and what doesn't. Also, like the meta tags can be different without getting penalized by a search engine because I control that, I guess, Okay. Transcripts. So the transcript page, which is new, how the transcripts are created are when I take the audio of the podcast and turn it into video, and then I upload the video to YouTube. And when you upload a video to YouTube, it will create subtitles for the video, and you're allowed to download that the subtitles, which is the transcript. So I take that and I put it on its own page on the podcast website, and then that's the first thing you see. No, the first thing you see on the transcript page is the podcast episode title and then transcript, and then you see just the subtitle text from YouTube. Then you see the embedded player from of the episode, and then you see the episode description, and then I have a link to the blog, or link to the book, and then a link to the podcast workflow document. Then you have the email pop-ups, the email pop-ups, the exit, and the bottom of the page one, and that's the transcript page. Okay, then there's the subscription page, which is on the nav bar at the home page, and all this is basically one of the pop-ups that doesn't actually pop up, it's just the form. So yeah, and that's so if people don't scroll to the bottom or exit by scrolling or like moving the mouse, if they do the Control W shortcut, when you do that, the exit pop-up won't show up. So this is just to make sure those people that use that shortcut or don't scroll to the bottom know that there is a place where you can subscribe to the email list that will send them every episode when it comes out. Okay, then there's the About page, and this isn't on any nav bar because I don't know, I don't really think it matters. It's just there because I don't know, it's just there. I had it before from when I didn't really use the website. When I created this website specifically for just the product hunt launch of the podcast, and then I wanted to sell the book and get it on the in search results, and then I started using it more, and I didn't see the value of the about page for the book, so I just took it off the nav bar. But what this page has is a picture of me. I describe my past work. I talk about web development. I talk about what else do I talk about? The podcast. I talk about open podcasts as well. Then I have the email pop-ups. Yeah. So the last page is the future book that I'm going to write. And this just has a short description of the book, and then it has a picture of the cover that I just made up randomly, and then it has a sign-up form to a mailing list where I will give updates on the book. Okay. Thank you for listening. If you are interested in podcasting and you don't have a podcast, there's the Open Podcast Community Podcast where you can record the audio and send me the audio and what you want in the show notes, and I will add it to that podcast. And there's the Open Podcast blog where I'm looking for people to write about podcasting, so I can make you an author and you could write about any topic related to podcasting. And yeah, thank you for listening. Have a nice day. Bye.